Malakaliki Maka is her last way to say Merry Christmas to you. Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Invincible Podcast, probably the best superhero podcast in the universe. This is a show where friends get to sit around and talk all things Invincible, a comic book by Robert Kirkman. Today we are continuing the new reader series, and we're doing that with Ultimate Collection Volume 7, which is issues 71 to 84. And joining me for this, as always, is Liz.
Ow, wow, wow, wow. Hi, guys.
And Brittani.
Hello.
I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm going to start off the show today by going over a new iTunes review that we got. This was actually towards the end of November. We just keep forgetting to mention it. So thank you to TSUJJ8789. And his iTunes review, he gave us 5 stars, which is great. He said, if you're reading this, then you already know all about Invincible, and you already know that it is rare to find others that read this fantastic series. What this podcast provides is a small community for the best comic out there, and for that reason, you should give it a listen. Not to mention that not only do they talk about recent issues, but they also help relive the Invincible experience with a series of episodes featuring people catching up on the series from the start. A great idea and a great podcast. So thank you. That's an awesome review.
That's so cool.
And we appreciate the reviews. That always helps. If there's somebody looking for comic book podcasts on iTunes or something, and they search comic book podcasts, or they search Walking Dead, or they search something, it makes it more likely for us to pop up if we have more reviews, and especially 5 stars. So another thing we got was an email. This is from Kevin Garcia. And again, this kind of fits just like that iTunes review, considering this is a new reader series. And Kevin says that, he listens to the podcast while doing his mind-numbing tasks at work. And he's actually really grown to like the new reader episodes. Initially, he wasn't crazy about hearing the newcomers catch up all the way from the beginning, but he really dug it after listening. I love how passionate and involved the ladies are. It's given me the chance to go back and also review the Invincible comics from the beginning, and now that it's coming to an end. I see that the Astounding Wolfman episode is out now, so I'm excited to hear that, which it is out, and it's awesome. Bill and TJ did an awesome job on that one. And he says, anyway, here's my question. Is there any way for us listeners to get a planned list of the upcoming Skybound character books? Like, what's the episode scheduling after Wolfman Volume 1? Thank you for the email. And remember, you can email us at theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. As far as what's coming up on our schedule, it's a little difficult for us to plan too far in advance because the issues, as you know, the issues have been a little sporadic lately with their delays and everything. But right now it looks like we're going to have a new issue towards the end of January. And before that, the next episode of the podcast is probably going to be Brit Volume 2. So if you're going to want to listen to that, you should read up on Brit Volume 2. And then after that, it'll probably be Wolfman Volume 2. We don't want to start too many other characters since we already have those 2 going. So we'll probably get into those. And then after those, who knows, maybe Tech Jacket, Guardian Globe. There's other spin-offs that we want to tackle. But soon we're going to have new issues to talk about, and obviously want to continue with the new reader series and get the girls caught up. So I think that's it. How are you guys doing today?
Good. I'm pretty excited. He called me a lady. The ladies.
Oh.
The ladies.
Makes me feel like I'm doing something right with my life.
No, doing good. Lots to do coming up with the holiday season, but doing good.
We are recording this was it the 22nd?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
so
it is.
only a few days away, which means I have to edit and get this episode ready to post tomorrow morning.
Nice.
So,
Wow.
Yeah, so no messing up.
So
that's
Katie's
less editing.
definitely wrapping alone.
No, I'll help her wrap some presents. But yeah, I'm excited. I love Christmas. I love the holidays, so it's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. We're going to jump right into this now. So this is Volume 7. I think a little bit about what we read previously in Volume 6. So where we left off was Nolan just arrived on Earth, and he he just showed up and said, the time for war is now, and he's come with Alan to get Mark, and Nolan hasn't been on Earth since he left after the fight with Mark. So that was exciting. We found out that Eve was pregnant, and that's where that storyline ended. We found out that Conquest is still alive. Cecil kept him alive, and and that Thrag, this leader of Viltrumite, had sent Conquest to intercept, Nolan and their forces from stopping them. So here we go. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm. I'm prepared. I have my Eve shirt on.
You do? So, fun story.
badass.
We do, among our group of friends, we do a Secret Santa. And it's neat because Liz had me, I had Brittany, and Brittany had Bill. Those are all people that you know from the podcast. And we had like 15 people in this Secret Santa. So it was kind of neat that, we all kind of had each other here on the podcast in a way. And I got Liz a Adam Eve shirt. And she's wearing it now.
Brittany and Adam Eve shirt. I got you.
I got Brittany and Adam Eve shirt. Why did I say Liz?
I don't know.
See,
Because you were thinking about my awesome gift. That's all.
Liz had me. Yeah, and Liz is sending me to Comic-Con.
So I am fully prepared.
That's right. Okay, so it starts off with issue 71. And let's see here. I like how right before we get too much into it, the covers. This is called the Viltrumite War. The next series of issues. I forgot how many exactly issues it goes up to, but they all have the matching, style of covers where they have that band, that panel across the bottom. So it's almost like there's two scenes that Ottley got to draw. And it's just a really neat way to separate, to signify that this is an event, that's going on in these issues. And I just wanted to shout out that really cool covers during the Viltrumite War. So yeah, Mark gets a call while they're fighting the Flaxons again. This is the third time they've fought the Flaxons.
Wouldn't they just get it by now?
Right. Well, they keep trying. The first time they didn't know that they aged quickly there. The second time they had the bracelets, and now this time they have like the tanks or whatever that's slowing their aging.
Yeah.
And Mark gets a call from Invincible Incorporated, that he's needed elsewhere, and Mark's like, can't you just send Oliver? Because he's busy fighting, aliens. And so the Flaxons end up aging again. They shoot the tanks, and a big thing about this fight is that once they figure out the aging thing and they get them to start retreating back through their portal, Robot, has this idea that they're like, let's go after them. This is our chance. Let's go through the portal with them. And him and Monster Girl jump through the portal with them. And, he said this is our way to stop them. They're just going to, keep coming back and keep trying to conquer us. So Robot jumps out. Him and Monster go through the portal, and it closes behind them. And we don't see them again for a long time.
Yeah, and actually, I remember, once I got to near the end of this volume, I was like, where were they? So I had to flip back and be like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that they had gone in that portal.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like this big, man, there's so much that happens in this one. It was very good.
Well, the crazy thing
there's
is,
so much that does happen that I personally forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going back to the first issue.
Yeah.
They it's amazing because while these were released monthly, we went like a good solid year and a half before we saw Robot again, before he came back.
Wow.
So for us, it was like he's gone.
Right?
He was gone for a while.
You mean Rex?
Rex. That's right. He prefers to be called Rex. And so we've got the next bit, we've got Nolan and Alan showing up looking for Tech Jacket because, as we know, they're on their quest to find different things that can help them in the coming war. And they've heard about Tech Jacket from the Geldarians, and they show up to try and find him. And
he's in the space station now,
yep,
right?
he has a space station, Brittany, you actually asked me at work today whether or not Tech Jacket had his own series.
I did.
And because he's awesome in this volume.
Yeah, he's comical, he's young, he's good looking for a cartoon, I guess.
I think Bill and I were going to be doing the kind of like how we do with Wolfman and Britt. We were going to be going over the Tech Jacket one. I think it'd be really cool if you and Bill did. That way somebody else gets to talk to you guys. But we'll get to that later on down the road. But because I actually haven't even read Tech Jacket yet. I'm excited to read more about it. So Mark and Oliver are talking, and Mark doesn't want Oliver to go with them because it's too dangerous and everything. But then while they're talking and Debbie's standing there, Nolan shows up. So this is the first time Nolan has seen Debbie. And what did you think of this scene? Debbie says, there's nothing you could say to make me stop hating you. And Nolan just immediately, I meant nothing I said that day. And, I mean, he goes on to explain, that he was wrong and that he was basically keeping it inside, that he didn't want to believe that he was, that he was feeling those emotions. And she basically straight up ends it by saying, I don't think I'll ever really believe that. How could I? And Nolan's like, I understand. So how do you feel about this? Like, since issue 1, I want to say, since volume 1, I want to say, Brittany, we ended the volume 1 new reader with you saying, like, she's going to take him back someday. She's going to take him back. And we know where this volume goes, but in this moment, like, were you glad that she kind of stood her ground and was like, nope?
Me personally, I still look at this. I mean, I really like this page. I like this conversation. I feel like it's a very real scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And for her saying, I'm never going to believe you again. Come on. It's baloney. But, the fact that he didn't push her on it or get upset and saying, I understand and I'm sorry, just shows again that he actually is letting those emotions kind of shine through and show that he has changed. So even though she stood her ground, which I was like, hey girl, good job. Really, she's in that moment, since he was kind and sensitive, I know there was like that flicker of, oh,
yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, think back to after the end of volume 1. You thought Nolan was a villain. You thought that he was going to be Mark's Joker at the time.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Definitely.
And
I still don't believe it. I still don't. I'm just waiting for it.
You've followed Nolan through so much stuff. Like, he's gone through the prison. He's spent time with Alan. They've done a lot, So it's almost like you've got to experience way more of Nolan as he truly is than Debbie. Right. So in this scene, it's weird because you're coming at this from his point of view suddenly, whereas in the first volume, you were looking at it through hers.
Yeah. No, so absolutely. And I like to see his change. And the more that we've gotten to see of him, I realize, like, oh, okay, I feel like he's being truthful or he's being honest. But I can't help it. Like, Kirkman's writing, he always...
Right?
I don't know when someone's going to die. I don't know when they're going to live.
And it's amazing. Like,
who's bad, who's good.
Last volume, we talked a lot about when it's okay to kill someone. Like, that struggle that Mark was going through. He had his black costume on, and he was really struggling with what kind of person he is and when it's okay to kill. This one has a lot to do with redemption. I've noticed a lot of the themes that come up with Mark and how he's viewing villains and viewing enemies and everything that's going on with Nolan and everything has a lot of that. Because that's going to be kind of a theme that comes up a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
So, a great scene, a great quiet scene between... actually, before we get to Eve and Mark, Nolan wants to talk to Oliver, and he, like, cuts him off, and he's like, no, you're coming with us. I want to talk to you. And that was, like, a cool little, like,
That's your dad.
So Oliver's obviously excited. He gets to go out and do some action. But a nice quiet scene with Mark and Eve. They spend the night together, and they're talking, and Mark is clearly scared, and he keeps talking about, like, I might not come back from this, and Eve,
she still hasn't told him.
Yeah. Eve decides not to tell Mark, and you can obviously see it in her face. She starts tearing up when she's looking away from him, and
it really is like a gut-wrenching scene, like, because what do? There's that struggle of, should I tell him? I don't know if he's going to live. Is he going to come back?
And what good is telling him? Like, would that make it worse?
Right,
Would he stay? Does he need to stay? Should he go?
Yeah, he would totally end up staying.
Would he fight differently if
exactly,
he knew?
Yeah.
Like,
would he hold back? Would he retreat?
Yeah.
So that's all the things that are going through her mind.
And I have a weird question. On the other page, she's doing laundry, and there's a duck shirt. Does that have anything to do with something?
Actually, honestly, I don't know.
I
That's
just
a good
didn't know
catch,
if it was like an Easter egg or something.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's an intentional logo, which there is an intentional logo later on.
Okay.
But that one, I don't know it, honestly. Yeah.
All right. I'm just curious.
Interesting. So, Mark leaves, and they're on their spaceship. Nolan, Oliver, and Mark, they're on the spaceship, and it's the Star Trek crew that is transporting them. They get their earpieces from Nolan, which I love that little mention. It's like, hey, don't worry, we've covered the fact that you can all talk in space. Don't think about it. Just don't think about it. So, but then the spaceship gets attacked. It gets destroyed. Something happens to it. Something flies through it. Mark, Oliver, and Tech Jacket fly out because, Nolan and Alan were on the other side of the ship. And they fly out, and who's there to greet them?
Well, who was sent after them, exactly.
Exactly. So,
and this, and...
Mark's face.
Mark, yeah. So now he's like, now I have to do this all over again.
Yeah.
So it's just... And I was kind of excited. Actually, when I saw Conquest again, I'm like, yes.
Yep.
Here comes the gore.
Yeah, and pretty quickly, too. I mean, we just saw him last volume, and he wasn't gone for long. It wasn't like the Sequids or something where it was like brewing in the background. This was like, here we go. We're going for round 2. And Conquest is like right off the bat in the beginning of this issue, Conquest is just talking smack the entire time, talking about who he's going to kill first. Like, I want to make you watch.
Oh my God, I hate him so much.
But you love to hate him.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's such a good villain. Like, he was written very well.
Mm-hmm.
And his character just, makes you hate him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Some great fight scenes here. Just so brutal. And Conquest just like backhanding Oliver, and Tech Jacket really just being completely out of his league and not really knowing what to do, and he's throwing everything he's got at the Viltrumites.
Yeah, and I think that's the first time he really can realize how unmatched he is against them.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to figure out a different way to fight them.
Yeah. I like there's a moment with Nolan fighting that the black Viltrumite guy, and he says, finally, I've been waiting to get my hands on you since our last encounter. If you remember, he's the one that fought Nolan back on Oliver's planet when he was a baby, and he had like his guts spilling out, and he's the one that finally stopped Nolan and knocked him out.
Oh.
So that's what he meant by that. Kind of neat that they brought that character back. But yeah, and then like Mark is fighting Conquest, he just keeps saying like, how are you here? What's going on? And he says, Cecil kept you alive? That has to be it. I can't believe when I see him again. So he connects the dots pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, this is it.
I mean, it's no surprise that Cecil was up to no good. I mean,
Fucking hate him.
thank you. Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah.
So we got this Viltrumite ship shows up, and a really cool thing that I like, Oliver runs out of breath.
Yeah.
Because like he mentioned, like, Mark mentions to Nolan, I haven't gotten the chance to teach him that.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, and so Oliver can't hold his breath that long, or didn't know to, or doesn't know quite his capacity.
How to manage it.
And he starts running out of breath, so they yell for Oliver to just go down to the planet. Go down to that planet we passed, hurry up, get there and get some breath, get some air. And there's this really intense like chase scene that happens.
Because then Conquest goes after him, and I was like, oh no.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I felt so scared for Oliver at that point.
Yeah, and they're just booking it, and you could see that like Oliver's trying to like breathe, and there's an awesome panel of the blood smearing down Invincible's face because he's flying so quickly,
so fast. Yeah,
and it's just you see Oliver gasp for air, but Conquest is right behind him, but Mark slams into Conquest and slams him into the ground.
I loved this panel because, of course, I wanted Mark to catch him, but actually seeing it and being like, oh, Oliver's safe, and then watching what happens or unfolded afterwards, I was just like, ooh. So I really enjoyed these next couple of pages.
Yep, you get Mark and Conquest that begin fighting, and Mark just keeps telling him, I'm not letting go. And Nolan takes off to go help, leaving Alan and Tech Jacket by themselves to finish fighting off these guys. And then we just get the rest of the fight between Mark and Conquest. And this whole thing with Mark saying he's not letting go, he's choking Conquest. And Conquest puts a fist through him, or his hand through him, just like he did with Eve.
Yeah.
Just like Nolan did with Immortal. It's just kind of the Viltrumite like
move.
Yeah, they just
own it.
Their signature move. Oh, I thought for sure at that point he was done.
Yeah. And
well then the shot of, Invincible's eyes and Conquest's eye, I was just like, they're both dead. Mm-hmm. They killed each other.
Yeah. So you get to see this 2-page spread of the scar of where they've been dragging each other through the terrain. And on this last page, you get Mark yelling help while Conquest is gripping his intestines.
Ugh,
Yeah,
so gross.
with Conquest's tongue hanging out. So that was issue 72. So right off the bat, this is like, boom. Like,
Got right
You're-
into it.
you're into
War
it.
has started.
mm-hmm,
And that's what I had to keep telling myself. Like, this is war.
mm-hmm.
And, you know, like you said, the redemption, the theme going throughout. But there was so much that happened with the fighting, who they're fighting. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's amidst a war.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, I enjoyed... I enjoyed Thaddeus in this next one, too.
Oh, yeah. So here we go with issue 73. And Thaddeus is freaking out on the captain of the Star Trek, inspired ship. And we get, what was this? This was, oh, yeah, he's just pissed off. And then we find out
Well, yeah, because he finds out that they don't have Mark, Nolan, or Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're also missing Alan and Tech Jacket.
Oh, okay. There's still
Because
that, too.
on the next page, we find out that Alan and Tech Jacket are hiding, Star
That's
Wars
right.
style.
Yes.
Because Tech Jacket says, I saw this in a movie once. It's like the Millennium Falcon on the back of the ship.
I totally did not understand that one.
That reference. It's awesome. And we've got a scene with Nolan burying Conquest and explaining to Oliver that he was a great man. He was only doing what
What he knew.
that was his job. That was who he was. And Nolan says, in a way, he was a greater man than I. And we get a shot of Mark. So this is Mark just completely bandaged, just holding all his guts in, basically. And he looks like crap.
Yeah,
So,
I was like, he's not going to live. I still thought that.
Yeah, I thought for sure he was a goner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And this is, they say that, Nolan tells Oliver that it's going to take some time, and, it's going to take months, and it'll be a good chance for us to get to know each other better.
I really like.
Yeah, I loved that.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, here we go, and do some training and
It
kind
really
of.
shows you that he cares.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At the next page, we get to see a frozen battle beast, and he's just saying, "Mama, more."
Yep.
He still wants to
So this,
fight.
it shows a half-bitten Viltrumite in space here, where they pick up.
I forgot
battle
because
beasts.
they were fighting.
That was
from
the fight
last
from
time.
the prison.
Yeah.
So he's been out in space
all that
all
time.
that time. Yeah.
Aw, poor battle beast.
And so then we've got a scene back on Telescrium with Thaddeus looking at the Scourge virus and talking to his two kind of communications assistants, or whatever you'd call them. And he basically says, begin the assault. Regardless if we don't have, all of our heavy hitters, we're going to, attack regardless. And so that what follows are some great scenes back and forth between fighting and what's going on on the planet
With
where
Nolan
Mark
and Oliver.
Nolan and Oliver,
Yep.
yeah. And we find out that Nolan and Oliver have to eat the creatures that live on this planet. And Oliver's like, there's no way I'm eating that.
Then he freaking loves
He
it.
ends up loving it. And I love this ongoing story with Tech Jacket and his facial hair.
I know.
They even did a close up of his one hair.
It's great because apparently the Tech Jacket cleans and bathes him and everything. So since they're using the Tech Jacket to hide out on this ship, he's not. This is the first time he's ever been able to grow facial hair.
And doesn't his dad have a real burly beard?
Yeah,
too?
later on when he
Yeah.
sees them, they're like, you grow a beard. And then
Some bonding time between those two.
and Space Racer shows up to help save the day. And we haven't seen him in a while. So that's just all part of the fighting. And more with Nolan and Oliver and feeding, having to feed Mark and
I
saying
didn't
that-
like that picture at
Yeah.
all. It was so gross.
Yeah, squeezing that weird creature guts into his mouth.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
But there's they mentioned that a month has passed, and that Nolan kind of reflects on his time on Earth, and he basically says that he thought he was biding his time, waiting to see if Mark would develop powers, because that was his mission, to find someone that a creature that would match, that they can mate with. And he said that he was basically convincing himself that that's why he was taking so long, but really he was starting to feel human emotions. And that, after he fought with Mark, he said that when I looked down at Mark, saw him beaten by my own hand, a Viltrumite would have felt nothing, but instead I was devastated. I knew then that I'd made a mistake, but I'd already gone too far, and it was too late. I thought that was a great scene, and really, again, sets up his whole redemption, and really nails it home, and drives it home, whatever.
Yeah, and I like that he's, sharing all of this with Oliver, and so he can kind of get to know that relationship, because he's only gotten it from Mark's point of view.
Yeah.
And Debbie, and, well, if she even talked to him about it, who knows, but I like that he's getting a good idea of the man he says he is, or I will still be leery.
And then more scenes going back and forth between Alan and Tech Jacket battling and fighting. Meanwhile, more Nolan and Oliver just having a laugh and, joking about, Mark and Eve. And Nolan mentions that, Oliver's aging has slowed significantly because when he first had him as a baby, he could see him age right before his eyes. So that was kind of neat. And we get, Mark starts to slowly wake up a little bit, but then the final scene in issue 73 is you find out who the mole is.
Oh, I was so mad.
Reminds me of Minority Report.
Yeah, it is a little Minority Report-ish. Them just kind of communicating, sitting in these chairs. So one of those communications guys. Yeah,
I call them the brains.
I never would have thought it was them, though.
No, you know what? To be honest, I didn't suspect them either.
Back when we found out about it, it shows them. They've been around for a while now.
Yeah,
and,
they're always around.
Yeah.
And once I saw them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen them so many times, but I never thought.
Makes sense.
I don't know why.
So they it shows one of them communicating with Thrag.
Telling them that the assault is coming, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
and that's the first. Is this the first time we've seen Thrag?
No, you saw him when Conquest knelt before him.
That's right.
That
that's
was the
right.
first time,
Okay.
Yeah. And then issue 74, the very ominous cover, very Doctor Doom-like, and Thaddeus gives a speech, on the front, in the first page, talking to all the different, races and everybody in the coalition, and he basically lays it out that says that they've been working with, Nolan, a defected Viltrumite, and we found all these different things that can harm the Viltrumites, and we're going to use them, and they're just, kind of rallying the troops in a sense, and it turns out while he's giving that speech, the Viltrumites attack Telescria. And we assume that this is what the information, what that mole gave to Thrag. And so
he sent
they
them.
struck first.
Yep.
We get a scene with Oliver and Nolan right before Mark wakes up, and they're talking, and I thought it was kind of funny because last episode you mentioned, Oliver with his tutor. Maybe he would end up with his tutor. Yeah. And we get a little bit of insight into who Oliver finds attractive and kind of his views. Because he talks about how he's never really related to humans and doesn't really find them attractive because of his other half doesn't look anything like them. He finds himself more attracted to that type of person, and how he saw a lobster once and kind of felt attracted to it. That was kind of funny.
I know. I laughed out loud when I read that. I was like, that's so gross.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And Mark wakes up. So Mark's awake. They tell him, Nolan and Oliver tell him that you killed Conquest. And
the boys, both Nolan and Oliver, like, you did it.
Yeah, all cheesy.
They're cheesy little smiles, and and Mark's still like,
Yep. A page of Alan and Tech Jacket on an alien planet. We're assuming this is just part of their, while they're fighting the war, and Tech Jacket's in bed with a very Avatar-looking creature.
Yes.
It kind of looks kind of Avatar-inspired.
They have compatible parts.
Yeah. We get a scene with Thrag talking to a skull. And
that weirded me out.
Yeah. We find out that this is Lord Argyle, and he's saying that you will be avenged.
Do they get into that a little bit more in the future?
They talk about it a little bit more, yeah.
This is a very, like, Hamlet moment for me.
It is.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I was kind of creeped out, too. Like, I even thought he was, I mean, we know he's crazy, but, like, cuckoo crazy.
Yeah.
Because he's talking to the skull. So I was kind of like, not only is he super strong, but he's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be trouble.
Yep. We got Thaddeus emerging from the wreckage and just realizing it was you. He pulls out the traitor.
How did he know, though?
Well, you got to think he probably knows. He's probably one of the only people that knew that they were about to attack, other than those two, because he didn't know exactly. He knew it was one of them. He actually pulls out the wrong one first, and I think the beginning of this issue was him telling the plan of attack to everybody. Meanwhile, they get attacked. So who's the only person that knows
that knew? Yeah,
that they were planning on attacking would be him. So that's how I think it
unfolds.
happened.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there to save the day, we've got Alan and Tech Jacket. They're fighting, General Craig and Anissa, like a really great fight scene on Telescria with, Thaddeus helping out. And then Nolan, Oliver, and Mark show up. And the fighting continues. And there's a great scene with Mark and Oliver flying through a Viltrumite ship.
Well, the best part is Oliver thought Mark was schooling him on how to fly, and he's like, dude, I know how to fly.
Oh,
and then he realized, we're going to punch through that ship.
Mm-hmm. It happened to be the ship that Thrag was in, and he grabs the skull and flies out of it.
Creepy.
Mm-hmm.
So creepy.
But then him and, Thrag and all the other Viltrumites leave and decide to regroup on planet Viltrum. So, we get the and then this issue ends with the traitor informant, to Thrag, is being shot by his partner, and
I love that it was the partner that shot him and not just
anybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the traitor reveals that they are going to Viltrum to regroup and to plan their counterattack. So
it will continue. Like, it's not done. When I read that, I was just like,
this is still going.
It's gonna keep bebopping all over. And
yeah.
So now they've been gone, a month or 2 months? So now...
Oh, they've been gone at least 3, maybe 4 months.
Right.
So you're just thinking of back home.
Right.
Because they say when they get back home how long they've been gone.
It's like 10 months.
10 months total.
10 months,
So,
yeah.
we both were like...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, all right. Issue 75, this is a big deal. Remember, issue 25, issue 50, 75, 100.
Now
These are all
makes
big
sense.
issues. So this is it's a much bigger issue. Ryan Ottley knocked it out of the park. There's some amazing panels in this, some amazing spreads throughout this one. And so let's jump right in. So the Viltrumites are leaving their planets. It starts with Thaddeus ironically saying the war is over because all the Viltrumites have left. All those planets that they were conquering and taking over and holding onto, they've left it, and all those planets that were being held by Viltrumites have joined the coalition. So now the coalition has gotten stronger. Meanwhile, the Viltrumites are leaving and going to one location.
Right.
So
that's all that's left.
Yep. So they're like, here we go. This is our chance to strike and get them all.
And little Oliver.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Great 2-page spread of all of them standing there. We've got, Tech Jacket, Invincible, Nolan, Alan. Battle Beast is there. Mm-hmm. So Battle Beast has joined the fight. Space Racer and Oliver.
He's thinking more in his head.
Yeah. Yep, bring him on. So, Mark has a moment with his dad, kind of saying how he's scared again. He's feeling unsure of himself throughout a lot of this, and he's talking about how he doesn't think all of us are going to make it out.
And Nolan doesn't even deny that. He's just like,
that's war.
That's right. It's war.
Mm-hmm.
People die, and we're doing this because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And so they arrive at the planet Viltrum, and again, I love how Viltrum has that ring of dead bodies kind of as a monument to all the ones that have died from the Scourge virus. and hiding among the bodies was, I got her name here, Phila. I always forget her name. Phila. She has the blade on the back of her ponytail.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Creepy, but really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Smart.
And she attacks Thaddeus. But immediately, obviously, the first person to dive in there was Battle Beast. You know, the first chance he gets to fight someone. So he takes on Phila and handles her. Meanwhile, Phila must have notified Thrag and the other Viltrumites because they show up. And this is it. They're saying, oh, hopefully Space Racer gets here soon because we're going right in. We were hoping for him, but...
Yeah, I couldn't believe how fast everything just, like...
Started.
Mm-hmm. I was like, well, here we go.
Oh, yeah. Space Racer shows up just in the nick of time, carrying the
I forgot the name of them.
Ragnox?
But the red things, they can jump really high.
And they're really strong. I'm pretty sure they're called Ragnox. But he's towing a lot of them behind them, and he just unleashes them on all the Viltrumites while shooting his gun. Pretty cool shot. And one of my favorite scenes, or things that happen during this fight scene, is Alan punching a Viltrumite. And he punches him in his ribs, and his hand comes out the Viltrumite's mouth.
Yeah.
So gross.
And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, Alan, you're so strong. I love Alan. Well, then he notes that, some of them are definitely stronger than others. Mm-hmm. So that gave me hope. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But it also reminds you of Oliver and how
weak he
is.
But he just had some really good training, so he's way more capable.
Yeah, you gotta think, though, the Viltrumites that we've seen are Viltrumites that have been sent to Earth to accomplish things. These are skilled, stronger Viltrumites. The ones that are back on Viltrum that are maybe hanging out, doing whatever they need to do, might not be quite as strong as we see here.
Right.
So... I like Oliver in this moment. He's like, hey, dickhead, a black hole called. It wants its suck back. Thrag's like, I gather you're the funny one. Always cracking jokes. Stop me if you've heard this one. Oliver punches his jaw off and rips his arm off. What do you guys think of that?
I had to study this picture for about, 2 or 3 minutes just to comprehend what happened. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, he's holding his arm. Like, he's freaking holding Oliver's arm. And then I look at his mouth, and it's derailed. I'm like, I think he's dead. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, he's not going to kill him now. His brother just came back. There's no way. But then later when he says, my brother, you killed him.
Yeah, Mark starts freaking out.
I'm like, oh my gosh, rightfully. Did he really die? So how did you react, Brett?
Oh, it was just, I'm pretty sure he died at that point. Like, how you just can't come back from that.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys notice this right here? Alan. There's a couple scenes with Alan, I think right here, and then in a little bit, where it shows him basically removing that body of the Viltrumite, like a bracelet. Like, he still has that Viltrumite wrapped around his arm that he punched through.
So gross.
Yeah.
The entrails that are just wrapped around and he's got to get off.
Yep, he just kind of shrugs it off. But, I mean... Invincible rightfully freaks out, starts punching Thrag, and he says, I killed Conquest, I'm going to kill you. And all the Viltrumites are like, whoa, wait a minute. That's what happened? You killed him? And kind of takes him aback a little bit. And, while they're all kind of stunned by the fact that Conquest is dead, Thaddeus has an idea. And he tells Space Racer, he's like, shoot at the center of the planet. Shoot now. Go. He shoots, and... he tells everybody to start flying with him. So they all start flying along together. Alan gets pulled off to the side, and it's just Thaddeus, Nolan, and Mark. And I love, as they're flying down, there's a great panel of Nolan grabbing Mark, and it almost looks like he's like pulling him to catch him up to eye level, just so it kind of like giving him like a nice little like boost, like, hey, come on, let's go. And they have this great panel where they like kind of lock eyes for like a split second. And then it just says, get ready. And they hit the center. And the following pages are just incredible of them flying through the planet. And
just seeing that explosion coming out and realizing that they just decimated a planet, I was in shock. I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and then just seeing the explosion, boom, 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 seeing the fallen statue of, that's probably the skull. That's
good catch, yep.
So I was like, they're destroying all hope of this race coming back. Like,
Exactly.
that's, yeah.
And I love these pages, the following pages, because it just pans away and you see the progression of this explosion.
And I like that all of a sudden, oh no, their clothes got burnt off.
And just
then right back into it.
Yeah, the fighting's resuming and you see them all punching as the explosion gets closer. And then you see the explosion catch up to the fighting and you see whole cities and chunks of the planet flying
just
past
floating.
them.
I know. I love
the
these
ring
pages.
of bodies that catch up to them. So once that blast knocks them out, they're knocked out. There's rings of bodies of Viltrumites that have been, or bodies from the ring.
They've been dead
forever.
Ugh.
Just mixed in with them, and it's just scattered. It's just chaos. It's amazing. So, yep. Thrag obviously doesn't handle this well. He makes a point, and he says, like you just touched on, Liz, you've taken it from us. You've taken it all. Our heritage, our home, our history. And Thaddeus says to surrender, and Thaddeus charges at Thrag, and Thrag rips off Thaddeus's head.
Oh, I was not expecting that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this was like a jaw-dropping moment for me. I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's definitely dead. This person is definitely dead.
Crazy splash page, too, how he grabs Thaddeus's ribs. Like, it looks like he's grabbing through his ribs and using his body to push back Nolan and his head to knock back Alan. Very intense, Well,
it's just that pure
anger.
Yeah.
And he says, at long last, Lord Argal, you have been avenged. So it was Thaddeus that started all this, that stopped Argal in whatever way. And
and then he had the strain too of that.
And the issue ends with Thrag saying, "You're all next." Big splash page.
And Oliver's body still floating.
Oh yeah, Oliver's still
floating. And that's why
distance.
I thought he was dead. Because after I saw him again, just floating in space, I just... And I was trying to come to terms with what just happened.
Yeah. So issue 76. Moving right along here.
Just continues.
Yeah, oh yeah, nonstop. And you got to read it back to back to back. So some of these issues were every other month because there was so much packed in there.
And I honestly, I even had to stop because it was so much. I just needed to absorb what was happening.
Yeah.
And it was intense. I was just like, I need
it almost feels bad that we have to go so quickly because there's so much detail, all the conversations that's held. I mean, we are just kind of going through these, just kind of in a, not in super detail, but... So it starts off, issue 76, Thrag is starting with Mark. And he's about to pop his head. And he's just... Nolan comes to his rescue. Meanwhile, Mark is holding his head based on what he did to him. And then we get Thrag fighting with Nolan. Him saying things like it was, Thaddeus who murdered Lord Orgal. So we found out that he murdered him and sent the Empire into disarray. He brought about the Dark Times before I was able to come into power as regent. We also believe he was behind the Scourge virus, which stole any hope of us finding the true heir to Argal. He must have used his own DNA to help them develop it. It's the only way. And, I mean, Nolan's like, well, we deserve it. We deserve this. This is just how it is. And I like how Battle Beast tries. He's like, finally a worthy opponent. And he's like, a nuisance. Backhands him. And Oliver...
But in this moment, I was like, did he kill him? I don't, because then we don't see him for... I don't know if I see him again.
Yeah, we might not. He might just be floating in space again.
Right, so that's why I didn't know what happened here, if it was just he was dead.
It doesn't look like we see him again.
Yeah.
But that's Battle Beast.
We'll have to find out. Find
out next time. And Alan is getting beat up, and it's looking bad. They're all pretty busted up. Space Racer shows up with his awesome gun and grabs Alan, and they basically retreat.
Yeah.
Just Space Racer and Alan. They're like, we have to go.
And I liked what he said. He was just like, more or less, we have to live to fight another day. At this point, it's just going to end badly, so let's get out of here.
Yeah. And it makes sense. So Thrag then takes on Nolan and Mark single-handedly. And Nolan says, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't beat him. He's been trained from birth. This is it. We can't win. So, and I think Nolan actually says, Mark, please know that no matter what I said, I've always loved you.
This is the first time I was like, okay, Nolan.
Yeah. They're really laying it on. Like
I
they're
know.
saying, hey.
I know.
He's like, I thought that made me weaker, but I know now that it made me stronger.
I was like, okay. That was a perfect thing to say. It really was.
Tearjerker before they get
what good writing.
really messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. That really is true.
Yeah. And Thrag really is destroying them. He does the signature Viltrumite.
There it is. Hand through
the stomach. And
just collect your entrails, Nolan. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's all.
That's what we've learned.
Yep. And so at that point, you weren't really scared for Nolan, right? Because the same thing happened to Mark.
Yeah.
So that's become basically a punch.
Right.
You know?
That's a oh, I can't say their name, so just don't ignore me. Viltrumite punch.
Yep.
Did I do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thrax hesitates. Right before killing Mark, he hesitates. And the other Viltrumites are like, what are you doing? Why did you stop? And Thrag decides to spare them and says that they will be needed. They're important to leave them. So the Star Trek crew shows up to rescue them. Mark has been in bed healing, and more time has passed. I forgot what they said. Was it a few weeks?
Alan's the leader.
Yeah, Alan has been made.
It was a few weeks, Ryan. You're right. It was only a few weeks.
Oh, yeah. Alan has been made boss. He said he's been made top boss with Thaddeus dead. And so now he's called Great Alan. But
What a perfect guy to...
yeah, right?
Lo and behold, little Alan just sitting out in space now is the head of the coalition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, showing up to the wrong planet.
How fortuitous, how it all unfolds.
Mm-hmm. And Oliver's alive. You find out here that Oliver is in fact alive. They've got him in kind of it looks like a back to tank from Star Wars. A lot of Star Wars references throughout this whole arc. And that he's going to be fine, that his jaw has been replaced, his arm has been replaced, and his own skin is growing over top it. So he's going to be all right.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
You're not dead until you're buried.
Yeah, right. And even then, maybe.
If you can find your head,
you're conquest. Oh yeah, immortal. You're right. Putting Immortal's head back together. So Mark asks Alan, why aren't the Viltrumites attacking? Where are they? And Alan says they're in hiding. They're gone. We haven't heard from them. There's been no sign of them. And that then Mark kind of makes the connection that
where could they be?
Like, why did they leave us alive? What would Thrag want to do to us to punish us for what we've done? We took everything from them. What would they want to do to us?
Take everything from us.
So Mark says the Viltrumites have gone to Earth.
Absolutely.
I think my face looked like what Mark's face looked like when I read that.
Like,
okay.
Oh my god.
Okay, so issue 77. This is one of my single favorite issues.
Understandably.
Apart from obviously some Conquest stuff, I love the Powerplex issue that we read, a couple new readers ago. Otherwise, this is among my favorites. It's so cinematic. It's very, you could see this happening in a movie, and we don't get any other issue that does what this issue does. It starts off with the Pentagon just destroyed, Thrag holding Cecil with Britt dead next to him, Donald dead next to him, and Cecil pleading like, we can make this work. I can help you. I can help you. We can coexist. And Thrag just squeezes and kills Cecil.
I was not upset about that.
You were like, all right, this is a good start.
I can deal with that one at least.
Mm-hmm. And you turn the page, and there's a 2-page spread of Viltrumites just decimating everyone. We've got Wolfman, Duplicate, and right on the front, taking up the whole second page is Adam Eve, just basically sliced in half.
And at this point, I'm thinking, is this really happening? Because I remember Duplicate and
Immortal
retired.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking, I'm sure they would come out of retirement
for something like this.
So I was kind of like curious about
confused on what was really like going on that one.
Mm-hmm. And just the way like Adam Eve is looking, it looks like she's looking at the camera, and you can just like hear it, and then it just flashes to Mark, like with his head up against the glass in the ship, and Nolan saying, "You need to rest," and it was just it's so intense in this whole issue. It's just like this is what's going on in his head, and he's just so freaked out because he can't stop thinking about it. Like they're already there. What have they done?
Oh, absolutely. I still didn't connect 100% that it was in his head until they did like another shot of it later.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, poor Mark.
Yeah.
Destroying himself. And it would be 10 times worse if he had left a pregnant Eve.
Oh, if he had known?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we get a scene of Alan and his girlfriend, Talia, and he's stressed out with his new responsibilities and about where the Viltrumites have gone and everything. And then I like how he's just like, I miss my friend Tech Jacket.
I know.
It just makes you love him that much more.
Mm-hmm.
They stowed away on their little ship together, became buddies.
Yeah,
and,
they had their own little buddy time together.
And
but
he's,
now,
like you said, he's quirky, he's funny. So
Yes.
Yeah, and now Tech Jacket is on the ship going back to Earth with Nolan and Mark. And Nolan and Mark are obviously, not in the mood to talk. And so Tech Jacket shows up and he's like, hey, I just want to let you guys know I'll help. I'm here for you guys. Just let me know. And then I'm going to make love to your sweet faces in celebration. And it's like they're not paying attention to him all. He's like, you guys suck. So a great scene with Tech Jacket. I really like how he was written into this.
I think that's at that point I was like, I want to know more about him.
Mm-hmm. And so moving on, we've got Nolan again touching on his emotions a little bit and how he's concerned for Oliver and how he's still getting used to those emotions and he can't shake that. He's concerned for him and he can't help think about, Debbie back on Earth. And he realizes he's talking to no one and Mark's not paying attention. And he says, Mark? And it shows Mark looking out the window and you get a flash of what he's thinking again, which is Thrag holding Debbie's head with, her boyfriend Paul sitting on the floor.
Oh, Paul.
Dead. So,
that's when I knew. I was like, okay, it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real. He's
like you said, it's very movie-esque. You can see this happening frame by frame. I liked it.
Yep. So they get within range of Earth, and Mark doesn't even give a second thought. He immediately launches himself out of the ship and flies to Earth and zooms in, flying around. He's like, what? Where are they? Where are they? And he's like flying around. Right here, there's actually a moment. Where is it?
Harry Potter?
Yes, the Harry Potter hat. Thank you.
Yeah,
I was looking
welcome.
close onto his head, and I'm like, where is it? It's not on his head.
No,
I
it's
realized.
on his hat.
So,
Like a Harry Potter scar? Is that what you're looking for? No.
Oh, yeah. There's the Harry Potter symbol on that guy's hat.
Cool.
That's a little one.
He really doesn't look like a Potter fan, but,
have you heard my ringtone?
Hey!
You're right, it was. Very Christmassy, too. I like that.
No, the little Harry Potter jingle.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of Christmas.
It does.
Because all the movies come out around Christmas. And the Harry Potter movies kind of have a Christmassy thing to them.
Yeah, they do. They have a good feel for that.
So, Mark's looking around, and he's like, they're not here. And Nolan's there, and
Look at his little smile.
He smiles. And Thrag's like, no, we are very much here.
And at this point, I was like, oh.
Like, it's not over. Please stop fighting.
So sad.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think of Thrag's offer? So, he talks to Mark and Nolan and basically says, this is what I offer you. We're going to stay here, and we're going to live among you and continue to, blend in as humans, and we're going to breed, and we're going to multiply. And you're not going to do anything about it. You're going to let us. And if you don't let us, we will attack and potentially, most likely, destroy this entire planet and everyone along with it. So what do you think of that? Tough spot.
No, I just, yeah. I didn't know what to think, to be honest.
Smart. You know, because there's nothing really he can do about it, and that's what Mark is feeling in the situation. And I love how this issue ends with Mark, you know, saying no, 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 and then it does that final flash of what's in his head, and it's all the Viltrumites standing over like a decimated city, Earth, and what would happen. And it ends with him saying, "My answer is yes."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Because with their whole temperament and everything, like, how on earth are they going to be able to handle little tedious things as humans and not want to destroy something?
Yeah. I mean, there was no other answer. There was no other choice. Mm-hmm. And Thrag was really smart.
Yeah.
And it kind of pisses me off.
And I liked all the images of the different Viltrumites trying to blend in.
I know.
You see the one with the red eye with an eye patch on to cover it up. Anissa.
I loved Anissa just being like, leave me alone.
Yeah, like things like that. Mm-hmm. I feel like you'd find them in a ditch somewhere.
Just those guys.
I have to get pregnant by you. Wait.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really interesting what it sets up for the future of the series, though. You know, like now Mark's living on a planet that's
now I have to
Viltrumites.
rethink everything too, because I just thought that they were going to be coming in for an attack. They would fight them off, but now they're actually going to be living on the planet, repopulating, and they all have to live there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big planet, but still. So now I have to rethink what's going to happen in this whole...
how do you get out of the situation?
Invincible universe. How do you get out of it? Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
I'm just wondering why Thrag didn't just destroy them anyway, because obviously he is stronger, so he could have just destroyed Nolan and Mark anyway and still taken over Earth. Mm-hmm. Whether he had backup or not.
No, I think that too. I think that what he's hoping is that I think he's valuing Viltrumite life.
Yeah.
He's saying, like, I agree with you in a way, Britt, like, because really, what's these two, especially for what they've done, why do they deserve to live? Mm-hmm. But he's seeing every Viltrumite is a potential, member of our race, and we cannot repopulate. He doesn't want. He cares so much about his race that he doesn't want to actually, kill one of them. But yeah, so issue 78. This is the final issue of the Viltrumite War. And starts with Thrag leaving and
somehow promising he's never going to see them again.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah, like that's going to happen. So Tech Jacket shows up and
can't keep up with you guys.
Yeah.
And then they leave again. Jerks. Yep. I love him.
Yeah. I like that one.
Yeah, Tech Jacket has a moment where he realized he never said goodbye to Ellen. He's sad about it.
They're so cute.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a scene with Debbie telling Paul to come get his box of crap. So Paul's out of the picture, conveniently enough.
Yep.
Because guess who just walked in the door?
The family's going to be complete again.
So Nolan and Mark arrive, and that's when Debbie says,
she's a disgrace to women.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. Don't hate me.
So 10 months. And she freaks out. She says, "Where's Oliver?" Nolan's sick. He's fine. He's alive.
I love how much she loves
Paul?
Oliver. Yeah. Who's Paul? It's funny, yeah.
So Debbie and Nolan need to talk, and they send... Debbie tells Mark, she's like, "You should go see Eve. She's not doing so well." And he's like, "What?" "Okay." And he says he'll be right back, and he leaves. So I like Cecil showing up. Well, Debbie and Nolan are talking, and immediately shoots Nolan. He's like, "Sorry, it's instinct. I heard you were reformed. But does this mean the war's over?"
My first thought on that being that Mark was in the room.
Oh.
How did Mark not destroy Cecil at that moment?
Yeah, well, Mark wasn't in the room. He had already flown out. But you're saying...
Where?
Because it shows him...
Because he went to go see Eve.
Yes.
All right.
But come back to that thought in a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it shows Mark arrive, and you can tell they're trying to hide something So Mark shows up at Eve's house, and they're hiding Eve's face. They're hiding her. You can't quite see her. And Eve says, don't come any closer. And Mark says, why?
And I originally thought it was like paperwork for like an abortion or, something like that. Mm-hmm. And so, but then I'm like, what if she didn't?
Yeah, what if she had the baby?
Right.
And what if she's holding the baby and she's saying, don't come closer?
That's why I thought they were hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the paperwork made me nervous, so...
Yeah. Oh, the zoom in on the paperwork.
Yeah.
And it's just that she's gained some weight. And she says, I don't want you to look at me. And Mark just doesn't care. He's just
like,
said,
I love you.
At this point, I thought it was like baby weight. Because you figured it's been 10 months, so it's long enough for her to have a child. I was like, it's probably baby weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she did have a baby. Where's this baby at?
Yeah. And so they're just so happy. She's happy he's back. So next page we get a sad Cecil that has to tell D.A. Sinclair that they're not going to need the Invincible Reaniman because the war's over.
He looks
DA's
so
like,
depressed.
bummer.
But I was surprised that they wouldn't keep working on them or doing this because you never know what's going to happen.
And in this volume, we see them use them.
Yeah.
I mean, they will use them. I think they were just like ready to go. They were
like
standing
right that
ready.
moment.
Yeah.
Okay, I
and
gotcha.
they're like, stand down. That's all. So Tech Jacket shows up.
Oh yeah.
Talks back to his dad. Yep.
The burly beard. He's
Yep.
so excited. I love it.
They're both so happy they each grew a beard. Eve talks about how she's had a hard time. She said that Bulletproof has been helping out. She got her powers back, and they haven't really been acting up. And she just didn't see the point in really doing anything. She has the money. She could do something. Like she could
buy land.
Yeah.
And then build a house with her powers and all that. Mm-hmm. But she tells
Mark that she thought he was dead, and that she never thought that she would see him again. So a nice moment between them, and then another couple moment here with Debbie and Nolan, and Nolan, talking about how much he missed her, and Debbie fighting with it and saying that she'll never forgive him, and she just doesn't want to, and he's just trying to make her understand.
But the only thing I'm thinking is, but my body.
Yeah, this is a very emotional issue.
Oh, yeah.
And to be very honest, I never thought like a superhero comic would be so personal.
Right? Oh, jeez. Just wait. You know what's coming next issue. So Debbie freaks out on Nolan, saying you ruined it. You ruined everything. You ruined my life. And she's like, I just wish things could go back to the way they were before. And Nolan says they never will go back to the way before because I will never lie to you again. Nice moment.
Yeah. Exactly.
I am so excited for you guys to get to this page.
Finally.
William's back. We see William again. Eve is sitting there talking with William. Rick Sheridan walks out the room, and William says, bye, Rick. Love you.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Eve says that explains so much about our relationship.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, I get it.
William's gay.
Yeah.
Every time they went flying.
That makes sense.
This is so gay.
Uh-huh.
They've
hinted at it.
Hinted at it.
Yep.
Throughout the whole series.
Good for him.
Isn't that great? I loved that.
So emotional.
Mm-hmm. William says to Eve, did you tell him? And Eve breaks down crying, says, I don't know how. So at this point, what did you think?
I thought she had an abortion.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, I still had no idea.
Yeah. I don't think I knew either. I feel like when I read this, I was like, did the baby die?
My gut was that she was going to have an abortion or want an abortion because it was messing with her powers. He was going to be gone. She had no idea if he was going to live. Mm-hmm. And for her, she was so young. She wasn't ready for any of this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they were going to take it to that level.
Well, I know. Well, it is. It's such a taboo subject.
Mm-hmm.
So for that to really happen, it is. It's.
Mm-hmm.
It would be.
I was very surprised.
But then again, yeah. Oh, maybe she'd want to have the baby because then at least that's part of Mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know. But then again, it's a Viltrumite. Like.
Oh yeah.
There's so many if, ands, or buts, but the fact that she was so emotional and she didn't know what she was going to do made me think that she was going to abort the baby.
Yeah. The issue ends with Thaddeus leaving Alan a message that leads him to the Scourge virus. So the Viltrumite War, the final issue ends with Alan finding the Scourge virus and tells him that for the good of the universe, eradicate all Viltrum life forever. So whatever you do, make sure that I don't die in vain. So Alan has the Scourge virus. So a nice little tease.
Right?
Like, so what's he going to do with it?
Alan's too nice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He's going to break the vial and be like, meh, moving on.
All right. We're trucking right along here. Issue 79. Nice little cover of
Duplicate
and Immortal playing with their little kids.
And even Mark cuddling in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was cute.
So,
and of course, there's their twins, brother and sister, Duplicate. And
well, I kind of had a quick thought that one of them
could have been.
would have been one of Mark
and maybe
and
that's
Eve's.
where like she.
And then I was like, it's Duplicate. She had twins, duh.
Oh yeah,
They
this issue
changed
does.
his
Yeah,
uniform again.
Yep, he talks to Art and says that it's just not working for me, and he goes
Not
back to his
feeling
classic
it.
costume. Goes back to the fingerless gloves and the boots instead of the costume that was one solid
I
material.
like the boots.
Yeah, and like
I'm
he
a
says,
fan of them.
Boot drive. I'm sorry.
Bootstrap.
oh boy.
Bootstrap Bill.
And like Mark says, it looked less unique, and he likes this when it feels right. And so we've got a scene of Eve asking if the script makes her butt look
Oh,
bigger.
I thought that was hilarious.
Mark saying it just makes it look more amazing.
How typical.
And then he's just like, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cute.
And the Invincible Incorporated phone rings. And I love this. These 2 pages, these 6 long panels of him fighting various enemies, like a lot of the classic villains from throughout the series. And it's just Invincible in the top corner saying it's good to be back. Like it's like such a nice like breath of fresh air for him to just be fighting villains. Just
Right. And at that moment, I completely forgot that they were coexisting on a planet.
with the Viltrumites. Yeah, it's kind of like there's nothing you can do about it. That's just how it is now.
And then I was just like, oh, yeah. So it was a nice distraction.
Mm-hmm. I like the scene of Debbie and Eve talking. And they're like talking like stories of when Mark was a baby or
They're
something.
besties.
Yeah, it's so
Mark's
cute.
pissed off that they're friends.
But I feel like that's what happens when you're an adult anyway. You start
Exactly.
talking to your...
And Mark's been gone for 10 months. They grew closer.
Yeah.
Debbie's all alone, too.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like an awesome mom.
I know.
Yeah. At one point, Debbie mentions that while Mark was gone, he turned 20. So a little frame of reference. So Mark is 20 years old.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
Put
he's
that
so
out there.
young.
right? So
Hey, Mark.
I like Nolan walking with Cecil through the Pentagon and everybody freaking out when they see him. And Nolan's like, yeah, I really can't stay here.
Well, for one, I think he needs a pair of shoes.
Yeah, it was always funny without wearing that. But at the same time, I think, I don't remember.
I love his outfit. I love the 3/4 length.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think he looks like
He's gonna catch a cold.
badass and ready to fight and just...
I don't remember who brought it up. I don't know if it was in the comic or if it was on Twitter or somebody somewhere at one point mentioned like, why do they even need shoes? Why do they even need boots? His skin's basically impenetrable. I mean, why not?
Because it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually he'll wear stuff to fit in, but...
Yeah. And at the Stronghold Penitentiary Prison, Dinasourus turns back into Dinasourus, the boy that transforms into him, breaks out. This is the guy that was fighting Mark last volume, saying that, you know, the fight with conquest and everything, stop rebuilding because this is a good thing. This is a good thing. It's employing more people. This is leading to a better society if you let the damage stay. Stop tampering with it. And he had some of those twisted beliefs in a way. So we get to see him again. He breaks out. Then we get a fun date night, a dinner date with Immortal and Duplicate.
Yeah. I thought that was cute, and
Bigger boobs.
it happens when you gain a little bit. You gain in your chest. And I really like how Kate was like, you look amazing. You know, everyone wants to make her feel like comfortable in her own skin and positive, and you know, I thought that was really cute.
And when they introduce
the kids
to them, Eve just kind of has a moment where she doesn't really say anything, and Mark's like, "You okay?" She's like, "Yeah, they're adorable." So she's starting to.
Well, and I like that the little boy's name was Abraham, like Abraham Lincoln. I was like,
Oh my gosh, because
yeah,
I got it.
Is the little Abe.
I'm just now getting this.
I love the chat they have, how these 4 panels at the dinner table are different different conversations. The first one duplicates saying, "Oh, childbirth is only slightly more painful than being ripped in half." Immortal's like, "Doesn't sound bad to me." Like their whole vision of pain is so skewed.
Yeah.
Mark tells his story about what happened in space and how he spent most of it in the coma. Then the next one is Eve and Duplicate reflecting about how Eve's dad tried to get them to like kiss or something, and how it'd be totally cool if they liked girls. And
I hate her father.
He's such a creep. It's great.
And Eve's face, like her laughing like that, was just like.
I like Immortal's face in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the final panel of that is the Immortal talking about how he feels bad for John Wilkes Booth. He's like, "True, he did intend to kill me, but I wasn't dead. And he was still punished for the crime." And he's just going on about how John Wilkes Booth killed him. I love that. So then it's bath time, and Eve, Duplicate passes one of the babies off to Eve, and she breaks down.
Because look how cute he is.
Yeah.
Nah.
So,
Just kidding.
Whatever.
I'm not that heartless.
Pretend it's a puppy, Brittany.
Okay.
So Eve's crying. Mark goes outside because, he heard she was upset about something, and Eve can't keep it in any longer. And she just says, "Oh God, listen, I had an abortion." And Mark's
I didn't know if she was even going to tell him still. Like,
really?
'cause she kept, like, choking it down, was fighting. And I'm like, just say something.
So, a pretty intense scene, because not only does she reveal to Mark that she had an abortion, but this is also Mark finding out that she was pregnant.
Right. All in one.
Yeah. And so she just says she couldn't do it alone. She just couldn't do it. She had to make a decision. "I didn't know if you were going to die. I didn't know."
She didn't have to do it alone, though. She could have told him.
Well, she thought she in case he wouldn't come back. And,
I know. But
Or
she
even
made
go
that
together.
choice.
And Mark says, "I'm sorry I did this to you."
I thought Mark took it exceptionally well.
And they're both crying.
And his love for her, like, was more, so it really...
Beautiful scene. Beautiful.
Yeah.
The coloring in it is amazing because it's
so saturated.
nighttime, and it's so, it's so deep. The colors is beautiful. Really, really sad.
And then I like the little conversation between Kate
and Immortal
of, "I give them 2 more weeks," or how much ever long it was. Another week tops.
So, Brittany, you said you didn't really know what she had done at this point. How was that reveal for you? Turning the page and her saying that.
I had to just keep looking at everything, to be honest. I was shocked. I didn't think they'd go to that level.
Right?
In a superhero comic of all.
Yeah,
So
because
we've
we've seen decapitations and gore and guts, but we've never really seen something like this. And this was a pretty intense moment in a different kind of way.
I think at most I was thinking miscarriage or something like that, but that was a lot. It was a lot to take in.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on. Issue 80. We've only got 4 more of these. We got this. Issue 80, awesome cover of Dinasourus.
Yeah, I liked seeing him, and I'm like, ooh, I think he's going to be cool. I was waiting to see him come back after he broke out.
Now, when he was first introduced into the comic, wasn't he 8? Was that the same one?
Did
No, you're thinking of, and you said this last volume too, because I went back to listen to it. The first time we see Dinasourus, you thought he was Giant, which is the little 8-year-old boy that turns into a huge giant.
Why do I keep getting them so mixed up?
It's just a red villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this one's the
I'll
dinosaur.
remember now.
We only saw him once before, and it was after Conquest. And he was saying that how, he wanted there to be destruction and stop cleaning up and stop tampering with this, because this is actually a good thing to happen to the population, that, it's caused more jobs. It's, everybody coming together to help. All right. So this is actually issue 80 is also one of those 16-page panel issues, or 16-panel page issues, where, I want to say it was 2 volumes ago, I can't remember, where there's, that diagram where there's that format where they try to get as much
as they can
out of a 16-panel page.
Yes.
Very cool style. It allows for a lot of storytelling throughout it. A lot more art, too. So, right off the bat, the issue starts with Debbie saying she's leaving with Nolan. She's like, we decided to work things out. We're going to try. And I'm leaving.
Bye. Bye, Debbie.
Bye. Turn the page and...
Screw you, Debbie.
They're launching into space.
Nah, they need it.
I
They
know.
need that time alone.
I know.
I know.
Just have some very...
Mm-hmm. A great moment with Mark and Eve saying that they can stay in the house, and an ongoing joke throughout this issue about how, they get to use their parents' bed, and Mark's like, my parents have sex on that bed. And she's like, well, according to what your mother says, you probably shouldn't go anywhere in the house then. Mark's like, what
So
don't you and my mother
gross.
talk about?
Yeah, at that point I was like, okay, maybe that's a little too far.
I would never.
Mm-hmm. Mark tries to talk to Eve about the abortion, and she says she doesn't want to talk about it anymore, and they just leave it at that. And it's just,
Can't blame her.
that's done. How about this scene? Mark goes to visit William, and Mark's like, oh, you finally come to visit, unannounced and exactly at dinner time. Still, it's good to see you, Mark. As we talked about last volume, I mean, William's kind of like, he's been kind of cast down to a C character. He's not really that important anymore. He only comes up now and then.
Yeah, and I like that they joke about it.
Yeah, William makes mention that he never comes to see him. He's too busy for him, and this was a great moment for Mark
and I actually feel really bad because at one point I'm pretty sure I called him a whiny little bitch.
Yep, you did.
Whoops! It's all going back together now.
So it's great.
Man.
I love this. I've been waiting for you guys to get to this for a while, this whole reveal, because it's just so great, and it really adds a lot to William's character. But that moment when Rick walks in and kisses William and says, whenever you're ready, babe, and you get Mark, a what?
Well, I like how they go on and tell him, like, oh, I was always attracted to you.
Yeah, because Mark's
Oh
like,
my God.
I'm doing this thing where, like, I'm picturing us in the locker room, and you weren't, it's not like you're attracted to me, right? Like, not every guy.
Right.
And they're like, oh, no, I was.
You're
totally.
very good looking.
Oh, yeah. And Rick's like, oh, yeah, totally.
Well, because, like, when you find out one of your friends is gay, you always, like, secretly
That all
wonder.
goes into your
It
yeah.
just rushes through your head.
Well, am I pretty? Do you like me?
And so Mark's like, all right, yep, I'm flattered, really. Okay, that's enough. I'm out.
Yep, goodbye.
So he leaves. And I love how that page ends with Rick saying, what's the matter? That didn't seem to go so bad. And William's like, no, it went well. It's pretty much how I thought it would go. It's just, I don't think he'll ever take me flying again. It's so good. So funny. And just bring it back. That's one of the first things that happened in this series.
I loved it.
So great. And then we've got a scene with a thief who invented boots that allow him to, like, walk on the ceiling, walk on walls, and Mark, stops him. And the thief basically gives up right away, saying, oh, well, geez, I didn't think it would be you to stop me. I thought if anybody would, it would be someone like Rexplode. And Mark's like, Rexplode is dead. He's like, oh, sorry about that. Nice little jab. Like, hey, remember him? It's like, oh. So... But this guy basically saying, like, hey, I did this. Like, Mark asks him, why did you do this? And he said that he doesn't have the money to buy an engagement ring for his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And so he built this tech, and he decided to rob the bank just to, pay for the ring. And Mark convinces him. He's like, sell your tech. I'll let you go. This will be fine. Just sell your tech, and we'll call it even. So
reasonable.
Yeah. Mark's being a reasonable guy. And right there, it's planting that seed of, like, ramping up Mark's forgiveness.
Master plan.
And his kind of, like, what's going through his head.
Right.
And all of this. So.
And, yeah, everything that he's been through, how he wants his name to be remembered. And
I like how the criminal, he mentions he used the gravity boots to rob the bank by walking on the ceiling. And he said it was pretty easy. Nobody looks up. Mm-hmm. I like that. It was cool.
Yep. There was something the other day I saw on Facebook. They're like, oh, and nobody looks up. And I was like, oh. oh, and it was completely unrelated, but it felt like something, you know?
Yeah. So we get another scene of Mark at his comic shop, and a couple inside jokes here, other than some of the titles and everything around in the background. But the comic shop owner talks about how the writer of Science Dog said he promised to be on time, for a full year, which is something that happened with Invincible. Kirkman promised. He's like, all right, I don't remember, was it 2012 or whatever? He's like, yeah, or 2011. They're like, we're going to be on time for a full year. And that was a little inside joke.
I guess it didn't happen.
Actually, I think that year it did.
All right.
I think it did, actually. And then another inside thing is Mark saying, what the heck? Did every series start over with a new issue 1? That blows. Why do they do that? It doesn't help sales in the long term. And they just go back to numbering it the way it was for the next anniversary issue. And that's because Marvel and DC, they started doing this thing where they started rebooting the whole series of things starting with issue 1.
Then it gets confusing. It's frustrating. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's okay. I like...
Nerds.
Hey.
You're doing a podcast.
I like how the next issue ends with, I don't like it, but it's very sad. Art showing up to say goodbye to Nolan. And he's like, is Debbie here? It's like, no, he's gone too.
I felt so bad for him.
Look at Art. Look at him slumped, walking away.
He's like, did he leave without talking to me again?
Just a shadow.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark gets the call. For the Invincible Incorporated call that somebody's wreaking havoc.
Beep beep in her pocket, her butt looks like voluptuous.
It takes up the whole panel.
Yeah, it's great. Half the panel, right?
Half the panel, right? Not the whole.
Almost.
That's a good voluptuous rump.
So Dinasourus is attacking Las Vegas and telling Mark that he wants to destroy Vegas. It doesn't, it shouldn't be. It's a drain on natural resources. The Colorado River will soon dry up. The region can't sustain itself. Furthermore, if it were destroyed, the area could be ideal for a solar panel, which will supply jobs. And he's saying all this, and he's like, I wanted to get everybody out. My plan was to get everybody out, but if it's not working, it's not going to happen, whatever. And Invincible's like, no, the bomb, found it. And he's like, no, I hid a lot of them. It takes at least 50 to level the city. And you turn the page, and there's just this blast that just...
You could, hear it.
Yeah. Huge 2-page spread of this enormous explosion going off. And then you just see Mark naked, surrounded by this smoke and everything, and it clears away.
That's what a 20-year-old body looks like.
And it's all glass. Everything's gone. Las Vegas is gone. And Mark's sitting there on top of the glass naked saying gone. That's it.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like it's weird because, Dinosaurus Rex.
Just Dinosaurus.
I'm going to call him Dinosaurus Rex, FYI. So Dinosaurus, if he doesn't care about things, that's when he can change, right?
Yes.
But then when he's Dinosaurus, that's all he does is care.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's thinking about everything and how to make the planet better. So I just thought there was, a weird... transition of not caring to caring.
Yeah, the indifference, they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's whenever he feels indifferent.
And when you talk to him, as a human, he's totally dumb. What's up, dude?
He's totally like a stoner guy.
Yeah, he struck me as a young...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, issue 81, we get the news report of what happened to Las Vegas, and we see everybody watching the news and what happened, and... it's revealed, they say live on the air, that reports are coming in that it was indeed Invincible that was there on the scene. And you turn the page, and it's Powerplex taking up the whole page. He's like, what?
I was excited.
Yeah.
I like Powerplex.
Cool? So he kind of tells himself, these are the Actioneers that he's working with, which they're introduced in Astounding Wolfman. And they're just another team like Capes or something,
Gotcha.
Just out there. And he tells them, he's like, I'm sorry, but I know what I need to do. I need to go. And, he takes off. Then Mark goes to the Pentagon to have a meeting with like Cecil and Donald and Britt and basically talk about what happened. And they, what is it here? Oh yeah, Mark, they're basically, they kind of feel like Mark feels like they're blaming him for it, and he's starting to feel like there's nothing he can do to stop these kind of situations. And they mentioned Paris, something happening to Paris, which happened in Guarding the Globe. So there's a lot of this is a point in Invincible when there was a couple other series going alongside it. So there's Guarding the Globe, there's Wolfman. So they were trying to tie in more things.
Gotcha. That makes sense, because some of the stuff they were mentioning, I was kind of like
lost.
I was like, I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt bad.
Yeah, and they talk about how they need to find Dinasourus because they assume he survived. And we get a neat little cameo here of 2 Georgia police officers.
Well, I thought that looked like Rick.
Oh, yeah.
I looked at it and I was like, that looks just like Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, that's so funny.
It's a little cameo from a little Walking Dead cameo of Rick and Shane showing up. And you see that Dinasourus did in fact survive, and he reverted back to his human form. So we find out the guy that sold that tech, that gravity gun and gravity boots tech, is back to Robin Banks, the guy that he sold it to. And I love that they call him Gravitator. And didn't Invincible tell him, he's like, that kind of sounds like gravy potato or something.
Yeah, I like that.
Gravitator. Yeah.
Gravitator.
Mm-hmm. And so Mark forces the guy to tell him who he bought the tech from. Shows up at that guy's house. I think his name's Chris. He shows up at the guy's house and is like, dude, why'd you sell it to a criminal? And he's like, why couldn't you sell it to someone else? And he's like, is there a number for that? Who do you want me to sell it to?
Yeah,
That's true.
So Mark goes and takes him to Cecil.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So he's like, this is a place in which you'll actually be able to utilize your skills. You're obviously a smart guy. And, this is a place where you'll actually get paid pretty well for this. And Cecil makes a comment. He's like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you're coming around to my way of thinking. And Mark says, as you get older, you start to see things differently. Doesn't mean I agree with everything you do. So
I like that. That's life.
Yeah.
And what's that saying? I agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm,
right?
Kind of.
I still don't.
Oh, please. You're talking to the original.
The original Cecil hater.
Yes.
So on Mark's flight home, Powerplex attacks him.
Yeah.
And there's this great scene. Powerplex, once again, having a very emotional scene, freaking out on Mark, saying, Las Vegas, how many more people have to die? Because this was Powerplex's whole thing.
It's your fault. This is happening because of you.
And Mark, obviously knows not to fight back, and he can take Powerplex.
Right.
So he walks up to Powerplex, and he's like, I saved the world. I was doing that. More people would have died if I didn't do anything at all. And you know what? I failed. I failed in Vegas. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I tried, and I failed. That's all I did. And you know what? You failed too. I wasn't the one that killed your family. Mm-hmm. I failed and you failed. That's just how it is. And Powerplex has that moment where he's like, you're right. And he just breaks down.
I can't believe he actually got through to him.
Finally.
I didn't think I was going to see it at all. I thought it was going to end in a death match for sure.
Well, it was almost so stupid. How does this guy not see that he killed his own family?
I know, but it's all because of what Mark did.
I know.
It only happened because of him and choices that he's made.
But the second time? With his wife and child.
I can't even... That scene haunts me still.
Yeah. But it's one of those things this is a comic book. The bad guy is crazy. It's like the Angstrom-Levy thing. He's crazy. He thinks that it's Mark's fault. That all this has happened to him. And other villains in other comics, they have their reasons, but they never come around to seeing it the right way. The other way. And this is an example of a villain coming around and being like, you know what? You're right. You're right. And you know what? Redemption again. This is coming back around to that.
I forgot. Yeah.
And when Mark was actually holding him,
yeah,
you'll be okay, buddy.
That's one of the pages I regret not buying. I saw that one at the first time I saw Ottley at Boston Comic Con, 2014.
You fool.
No, but instead I bought Conquest. Which,
I like that, though.
Yeah.
I know.
That's-
Conquest.
Yeah, that's a great page, too. But So,
Yeah, it's a good page, Ryan. That's a good one. If it was either or, then I think you made a good choice.
yeah, and that's kind of what it came down to. But we've got Cecil talking to Mark again and saying, hey, if I need you, can I call
Count
you?
on you,
Can I count on you? And they kind of offer to help each other out. And the issue ends with Mark like taking his mask off and sitting down with Eve and just saying like, listen, I don't feel like I'm making a change. Like
Right.
I punch
Things
guys,
are just gonna keep
I knock them
happening.
down, they get back up, cities still get destroyed, and not making any long-term change here. And that's where issue 81 ends. So issue 82, the cover is Universa, another villain that we saw last
Her staff.
volume.
She had that cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Her power was in her staff, and she wanted to drain Earth from its energy, and they knock her out, and then the sequence attacked and everything.
I like how you see.
Yes.
him.
You can see Invincible in her helmet.
Yeah,
The
very
reflection.
cool. Mm-hmm. So, the very first page,
It's Rex.
and older.
Yes.
The last time you
yes.
guys
And that's
saw
what I
him.
said. When all of a sudden I saw him, I was like, where has he been? I had to go back to the beginning
Yep.
to be like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot.
Because remember,
So-
last time you guys saw him, him and Monster Girl were little because they were like dating.
I was
and
saying, yeah,
being
they're like
cute.
14-ish, something like that. Yeah.
Yep. So
And he
Rex
looks
is
so
back.
miserable.
and
He looks distressed,
He
yeah.
is super like discouraged. He's having a rough time. He tells Cecil it's been 12 years in that dimension. They've spent 12 years there. So I mean, if you thought he
And
was,
they age really fast, so that makes sense for that dimension.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's how the whole time thing works. So when they were, yeah. So Cecil offers Rex a job, and I thought it was it made sense. It's one of the things in this comic. A lot of times, it's very smart writing. Kirkman does great with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Look at all these teams. We've got Capes Incorporated. We've got the Actioneers.
I
We've got
like these.
Wolfman. We've got Tech Jacket, Invincible, and then the new Guardians of the Globe, which there's a lot of characters in this panel of Guardians of the Globe that you don't recognize.
Right.
That's what happened during their little series.
When they were gone.
Yeah, pretty much all you need to know is that there's a couple new characters. There's some
Okay.
really neat ones too. Maybe you guys can read it
She ain't
sometime.
got no pants on.
I think it's
Ooh.
yellow.
Oh yeah, no, it's just yellow.
Really?
She has yellow pants on. It does look like she's not wearing
She
pants.
totally looks naked. You're-
naked.
That's how she distracts the villains.
So Rex is happy to take the job. He says he would welcome the distraction.
Yes. And I'm like, oh, what's happening, buddy?
I know.
Mm-hmm. So Mark shows up at the prison, and he wants to talk to Universa. And she basically freaks out on him and does not want to talk to him. We get a scene with Duplicate and Eve chatting at lunch. And she just makes a comment about how she's like, oh, Eve, you're eating a salad. Good for you. And he's like, I'm eating salad because I like salad. And she mentions how she gained weight because she wasn't doing anything.
That pissed me off.
I think it was supposed to. I mean, Kate has she's kind of a little bitch. I mean, all the comments
the
she
fact that
makes.
she
She has everything she wants.
You look so good. Really? Like,
Yeah, that's her character. Absolutely.
we know that person.
I feel like I know someone that's like that.
right? You have to.
I think they share the same name. Oh. Kate.
Oh,
Dupla.
Dupla.
I was like, Brittany? You know another Brittany?
No!
You're right. So,
Well, then I bet
got-
Mark is just thrilled.
Yeah,
oh, you
right.
freaking bitch.
Yeah.
Dinasaurus turns himself in to the Pentagon in his, human form, and because he doesn't like the dinosaur version. And he's like, I figured out how it happens. Just don't shoot me. I want to talk to you about it. And then we go back to Mark and Universa. And Mark's saying, I want to free you. I want them to let you go.
Redemption.
Yeah. And he talks about how, he's like, I get it. Your world is in danger. You need power. But you're here to help people. You're people. But, what you're doing is not evil. You're just desperate.
Right.
And so he's kind of coming around to other people's point of view. Mark's showing a lot more empathy towards, all these other villains in quotes and how they're doing things, because we never thought about this really, like Universa being anything more than some alien that shows up and wants to take all of her energy. It's like, no, she's a villain, but really,
not a bad one, just doing what she has to do.
Just misguided in a way. So Mark convinces Cecil to let him help her. So they do rolling blackouts, and instead of the energy going to people's houses or wherever, to certain cities, instead it goes to her. And they give her enough energy to leave. And she thanks Mark and says, hopefully someday I'll see you again, basically, and takes off.
I thought that was wonderful.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And a great way to tie up a storyline of a character. Like,
yeah. And again, I like how Mark is continuously surprising me with how he's treating people. And because he just had that big struggle of
the whole killing thing.
And being so devastated that he killed someone. So now he's making it positive.
And he's struggling with how to make a change. Like, and he tells that to Universa. He's like, I've been thinking a lot lately about how to, like, go about things differently. Because putting her there in that cell does nothing. She's just going to sit there. And what good does that do? So he's seeing things through now instead of just punching the villain and the villain goes away. Like a lot of other superhero comics. So,
that was deep, Ryan.
Oh, no. Dinasaurus talks to Cecil, and they decide it's indifference that makes him transform. And then the first time you get to see Monster Girl, since she's come back.
She growed up.
She growed up. She sure did.
She looks like a lot like Eve.
A little bit. I think that's just the way, maybe, she's just drawn.
Yeah.
Just Ottley style. And then we get a conversation between Mark and Cecil, and they're in the White Room. And
I'm like, what's going to happen? No, Cecil, don't do it.
And he's like, don't be alarmed, but there are some things I've been keeping from you. And
naturally, why not?
Yep.
I mean,
and last volume, Cecil brought Mark into the Pentagon to say, hey, D.A. Sinclair's reformed. They're expecting their first kid. They're married and they're starting a new life. But they covered up the Invincible Reanimator, and they said he's not ready to see this yet. And I think in light of all of Invincible's recent, actions and what's been going on, Cecil thought it was time. And so right off the bat in issue 83, we see that
not only are they Reaniman, they're him.
Yeah, exactly. He's Invincible, and Mark's weirded out by it. He's not mad. He says it kind of makes sense. I get it, and he's creeped out by it. But it's okay. Like, he's all right with it. And Mark says this changes nothing. You need me, call. If you don't need anything else, I'll see myself out. And he leaves, and Cecil's standing alone in the White Room, like, wow,
that went really well.
At this point, I felt like Mark had no more fucks to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to do what you want anyway, especially with the...
So let's use whatever you're doing for positive.
Honestly, I'm still surprised he didn't just rip Cecil's head in half.
Okay, so bringing up that point.
He didn't bring that up. Oh my gosh.
No, like, he totally didn't bring up the whole conquest thing.
Yep.
I didn't even realize.
Yep.
This whole time, I'm like, why is Cecil still alive?
So...
And now that he's like, yeah, you can give me a call, you can do whatever you want. The whole Ringman thing is fine.
I almost feel like that would be something that I'd want to ask Kirkman about. They maybe just forget about that thread, or
that's just how much he's...
Yeah, like, because it seems like a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I mean, and I'm trying to remember. I'm rereading these as we go. I haven't read Volume 8 yet, and I haven't read it in probably a year or so. I don't think it comes up. I think they just move on. And maybe that is maybe it is intentional. Maybe Mark he's moved on. Yeah. And like, what's done is done. And that kind of seems like his attitude lately. So, this issue has the Magmaniac and Tether Tyrant. Is it Magmaniac or Magnatac or whatever? And Tether Tyrant doing a job for Titan. So there's the whole mob, underground, is in this issue a lot, and we see more of them in a little bit, but Titan has a job for him. So there's a party going on, kind of welcoming Rex and Monster Girl back. And Monster Girl is getting hit on by every single guy. And Rex is just kind of moping in the corner. And Mark tries talking to him, and he's not really paying attention. And Mark's like, hey, is everything okay between you and Monster Girl? And Rex is like, no, not remotely. So sad. And they lay it on so thick. So back to Tether Tyrant is we find out that we knew before in a previous issue that he actually talks to his vest thing. It's some kind of alien creature thing. And he's talking to it, and he's talking about how, yeah, I know it would help if we formed a permanent bond, but I don't want to. You said it would transform me. I just don't want to do that. Let's just please stop bringing it up. So, yeah.
Just seeing him
play with it. It's like a pet. It's like a pet to him.
Yeah.
It's odd. Very creative though. Interesting. And it wasn't at some point, like when he was fighting Mark, like the first time you see him, was he like, what is this, bubble gum?
Yep.
And so back at the party, Monster Girl is walking out with Bulletproof. And she's like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Like there's nothing happening between us. Sorry. And she talks about how she's still kind of out of sync with human behavior because she's been gone for so long. And she says, like, it's just too soon. So we know that something's going on with that. Very, very funny scene between Mark and Eve sleeping in Mark's parents' bed, and he doesn't want to.
Like, oh, no.
I don't blame him.
And she's like, get over here, you little rascal.
Yeah. So, Magmaniac and Tether Tyrant show up to take out Machine Head, the old mob boss that Titan overthrew.
Yeah. And
Vault, this guy that is there that actually crushes Magmaniac's head. I think he was actually a villain in Astounding Wolfman Volume 1, which, I remember Bill and TJ talking about him. I'm going to have to go back and check that, but I'm pretty sure he's from that, which is kind of cool. He had a really funny scene in it. And so Tether Tyrant yells out, like, James, like, this is his friend. This is his good friend, and he's dead.
Yeah.
And he tells the vest, he says, do it now. Do the permanent bond. I don't care what happens. There's nothing left for me. And a cool scene.
Mm-hmm. I liked that, yeah.
It's just Tether Tyrant just in blackness. And he's like talking to himself, and he's like, what happened? Where am I? Did I die? James, how could I let you die? Blah, blah. Like, if you can hear me, I don't want it. I want control. I don't like this. Hello. If you're out there, if you can hear me, I want my body back. Give it back to me. And it just, he wakes up out of it, and he is like a monster.
Yep.
And he's terrorizing the city.
He's tearing shit up.
Mm-hmm. Britt says to him, he's like, you've been wreaking havoc on the city for 4 hours, and then you just come to and give up? I don't buy it. So they send Tether Tyrant away. But crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty creative way for him, for his storyline. Mark shows up too late. He's like, oh, I guess you guys got this under control.
Yeah.
And then this issue ends with Rex and Monster Girl having a moment in the bathroom. And Rex is saying, it's weird being back after all this time, isn't it? And Monster Girl's like, she tries to talk to him. He's just like, don't. And Monster Girl's like, can we please talk about it? And he's like, I came back here to leave everything we'd built and forget what you did. Please, Amanda, please. Why won't you let me forget?
Mm-hmm. And the fact that she says, I didn't sleep with Bulletproof tells me that she did something like that.
Yeah. 12 years. Mm-hmm.
So they had a relationship for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She did something terrible.
And now the final issue for Volume 7, issue 84. I like this cover. Just this solid black with Mark in the corner holding his mask. Very, Spider-Man No More. Very, it looks like,
He's
giving
contemplating. Up. Exactly.
It's like, do I want to do this? Obviously these covers come out way before the issues come out, and so people can see them, and it looks like he's contemplating done, and it signifies a big change coming. So it starts off with Eve talking to William, and William talking about how bad he screwed up Las Vegas, and Eve snaps at him and saying it wasn't his fault. But we get to see Vegas on the next page, and Dinasourus was right, and they turned it into a solar panel, and that it's, and it's funny, the guy that created the gravity gun actually
able
helped
to do this. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, Cecil says that it's providing clean energy for nearly half the citizens in the country, the entire country. And construction is a project that, is employing thousands. And Mark has a moment where he kind of says very quietly to himself, Dinasourus was right. And, Cecil's like, what was that? He's like, oh, nothing. So he has this moment.
Scared.
He has this moment where he's like, wow, he actually was right about something. And then there's more tension between Rex and Monster Girl about where they're going to live. And Rex mentions that he doesn't care anymore. And it's like, okay, you're kind of, something's got to happen. We got to find out what's going on between these two. So,
this is where she says she didn't sleep with him, and
yeah, she mentions that she didn't sleep with him. Yeah, with Bulletproof. And Mark has this scene with Eve where he sits her down and he's like, "Listen, I might do something crazy, but I need you to trust me." And
he should have gone to talk to a psychiatrist at this point.
Did you guys have any theories of what he was talking about?
Well, once he said Dinasourus was right, that kind of made me think like he wants to break things down to build them up. Maybe go back to that train of thought, maybe do something disastrous like what he did. Well, and he's been thinking of things in a completely different way recently. So it actually makes me scared of what he's capable of in this mindset.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had no idea, but I was thinking something like, just rebuilding from chaos.
Yeah, and Eve says that, I love you, and nothing you can do will change that, and she trusts him. Earlier in this volume, somebody tells Cecil, they're like, when do you ever sleep? And he's like, I don't. I stand in a puddle of goo, or I sleep in a puddle, or I bathe in a puddle of goo for a half hour every day, and it keeps me young, and I don't have to sleep. And we actually get a scene of this happening, of him in his pool of goo, because he's being alerted to Mark breaking out Dinasourus. And I love this scene because he's telling Dinasourus, the boy, you need to change into your dinosaur form right now. And he's like, what does it? And the guy's like, indifference. And he's like, you need to get me to not care about something. And then there's this wall of text where
when I first turned the page, I was like, oh, that's a lot of text. And I was kind of like, okay.
But you're supposed to. That's the point.
I know.
It's so
and then
good.
then when that all unfolded, I was like,
Mark basically retells the story of him getting his superpowers to this guy. And he's like, wait, what are you doing? And it's like, and he transforms into Dinasourus. And Dinasourus, comes to the conclusion that the only reason why he's helping him is that he must have come around to his way of thinking. So they break out, but not before Cecil sicks the Invincible Reaniman on him. And they put up a pretty good fight, but they blast off and take off out of the Pentagon, and Cecil's like, tell me that didn't just happen. So
Cecil.
Yep. So we find out that Cecil has been searching for Mark. He's got people stationed everywhere at his house, at the base, at the Pentagon, everywhere. And he goes to Eve and he says, has he told you anything? Do you know what he's doing? And Eve's like, he told me that he might do something and not to worry about it. This must be what he meant. And Cecil's like, you have no idea what he's capable of at this point. This could mean the end for us all. And that Mark is a fugitive and they're looking for him. And the last page of this volume of issue 84 is an undisclosed location, the secret base of Dinasourus. And Dinasourus is saying to Mark, ready to get started? And Mark's like, yeah, let's save the world. What do you think?
I got nothing.
Got a new sidekick or something?
Honestly, I don't know what they're going to do. I have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
My guess is just them brainstorming about how everything can become better between Dinasourus, his ideas of his destruction.
Yeah.
And what Mark can do.
Yeah. Because he tells Dinasourus, he's like, you're a little too brutal, but you have good ideas. Mm-hmm. So, like, working together, we might be able to actually do something.
Accomplish something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean, the entire volume was leading up to this point, this change in the way Mark does things. So, and again...
Right, and I'm wondering who else is he going to get involved and how quickly. You know, how long is he going to keep this plan just between him and Dinasourus? So that's...
Any other theories? You know, what are some of the things that you're excited to see in the next volume? Any continuing storylines?
Well, I can't personally wait to see Oliver again.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to see Debbie and Nolan. And I know they're going to be reunited with Oliver. Yeah. And that's going to be...
That's right, because they're going to Telescria.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to see that. I actually want to see more of Alan.
Yes.
Doing something with that scourge virus, right?
Yep.
What is he going to do with that, or if he's just going to ignore it. So I kind of want to see how that unfolds.
So I'm going to show you girls a picture. This is something that was released online. Ryan Ottley might have been the one to post it. I think so. But this was released probably even sooner than where you are in the comics where we were reading. So at this point, we saw this image online. And this was a few months before 2012 happened. I don't remember. Actually, you know what? It was in April of 2011. This image was released. What do you think of that? Right now I'm showing Liz and Brittany the image of a black guy in the Invincible costume, and it says Invincible 2012.
So maybe seeing all the Reanimen made him, like he said, that's kind of a good idea. Let's not do it with Reanimen. Let's just make other people...
Interesting.
You know?
The cover for Ultimate Collection Volume 8?
Yeah.
That's not Mark.
No, it's definitely not.
I'm so confused.
Look, he's holding... Alan's got the
vial in his hand.
The vial. They wouldn't show it unless if it's important.
So I'm excited for you guys to read that. And we'll be back to talk more when you guys are done.
Who is that?
Maybe it's somebody you know. We'll see.
Bulletproof.
You're going to have to read it. I think it's pretty early in that volume. I mean, it's enough that he takes up the entire main cover. So, awesome. Remember, if you guys have any thoughts on the podcast, if you want to write in, talk to us, have a question for the girls or anything, please write in. Our email address is theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. No peeking, Liz.
I'm just kidding. I wouldn't want to ruin it. Honestly.
And we've got a new issue, or a new episode coming out in 2 weeks. We release this podcast every other week. Pretty sure it's going to be Wolfman Volume 2. Not positive, but it's probably going to be Wolfman Volume 2. No. Brit Volume 2. Pretty sure it's going to be Brit Volume 2. Then after that, maybe Wolfman. But then shortly after that, we've got a new issue coming out towards the end of January. Everybody, have a good holiday season.
Yes, enjoy your holiday. Thanks for listening.
Mm-hmm.
Write us emails.
Bye.
Oh, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Year.
The whole thing. 2017 is going to be great for Invincible. It's going to be the last full year of Invincible comics.
Aww.
But it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And we're done. Bye.
Bye.